The sky was already darkening when Yates Zimmerman looked out the window of the diner, his weathered hands clutching a worn dish towel. It was nearly the end of his shift, and his feet ached from standing all day. At 34, this wasn't how he'd imagined his life would turn out, but the unexpected death of his wife 3 years ago had left him a single father working 2 jobs to make ends meet. "Dad, I finished my homework," said 8-year-old Lily, looking up from her math workbook at a corner booth. She'd been waiting patiently for the past hour, occasionally sipping on a chocolate milk that Gloria, the owner, had kindly provided on the house. "Good job, sweetie. Just give me 10 more minutes to finish closing up and we'll head home." Yates wiped down the last of the tables, mentally calculating how much he needed to set aside for Lily's new winter coat. The old one was getting too small, and Minnesota winters showed no mercy. The bell above the door jingled, and Yates suppressed a sigh. Late customers always complicated closing time. "I'm sorry, we're actually just about to." His words trailed off as he turned to see a woman standing in the doorway, looking slightly disheveled. She wasn't dressed for the autumn chill, wearing only a light blazer over what appeared to be an expensive but simple dress. Her dark hair was coming loose from what had probably been an elegant updo earlier in the day. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice soft but clear. "My car broke down about a mile back and my phone died. I was hoping I could use your phone to call for help." "Of course," Yates said, gesturing toward the counter. "The diner phone is right there. Thank you." She approached the counter with a grateful smile that momentarily transformed her tired face. As she passed under the fluorescent lights, Yates noticed her striking hazel eyes and the fine cut of her clothes, simple but clearly expensive. While she made her call, Lily approached Yates and whispered, "Dad, she looks cold." Yates nodded, walking to the coffee machine. By the time the woman hung up, he was placing a steaming mug on the counter. "On the house," he said. "You look like you could use it." "That's incredibly kind, thank you." She wrapped her slender fingers around the mug. "Unfortunately, the towing service can't make it until tomorrow morning, and the taxi services aren't running this far out at this hour." "Where are you trying to get to?" Yates asked, leaning against the counter. "The Riverside Hotel downtown. I'm here for a business meeting tomorrow." She sipped the coffee and introduced herself. "I'm Amelia Kingsley." "Yates Zimmerman," he replied, offering his hand. "And that's my daughter, Lily." Lily waved shyly from her booth. "Nice to meet you both." Amelia smiled at Lily before turning back to Yates. "Mr. Zimmerman, I hate to impose further, but could you recommend somewhere nearby I could stay tonight? I'm not familiar with this area." Yates frowned slightly. "This part of town doesn't have any hotels, I'm afraid." "The nearest one would be about 8 miles away." "I see." Amelia looked out the window at the now completely dark street. A few streetlights cast pools of yellow light, but the small town looked deserted at this hour. Yates hesitated, then said, "Look, my apartment isn't far from here. It's nothing fancy, but I have a couch you could use for the night. Tomorrow morning I can drive you to your car and you can get the towing service to help." Surprise flickered across Amelia's face, followed quickly by relief. "That's very generous. Are you sure it wouldn't be an imposition?" "Dad makes the best pancakes," Lily chimed in, now standing beside them. "And I can show you my rock collection." Amelia laughed, a warm sound that filled the small diner. "Well, with an offer like that, how can I refuse?" "It's settled then," Yates said, untying his apron. "Just let me finish closing up, and we'll head out." As Yates locked up the diner, he couldn't help but notice Amelia watching him with an expression he couldn't quite place. What he didn't know was that Amelia Kingsley wasn't just any businesswoman. She was the CEO of Kingsley Innovations, a tech company worth billions, and she was unaccustomed to such straightforward kindness without an agenda. The walk to Yates's apartment took about 15 minutes. The night had grown colder, and without thinking, Yates removed his jacket and offered it to Amelia. "I can't take your coat," she protested. "You'll freeze." "I'm used to it," he insisted. "Minnesota born and raised. Besides, that blazer isn't going to cut it tonight." Reluctantly, she accepted his worn but warm jacket, slipping it over her shoulders. It smelled faintly of coffee and something else, a clean, masculine scent that was oddly comforting. Lily walked between them. chattering excitedly about school and her upcoming science project. Amelia listened attentively, asking questions that made the little girl beam with pride. "She reminds me of myself at that age," Amelia confided to Yates as Lily skipped ahead slightly. "Always curious, always asking why. And did you find your answers?" Yates asked. Amelia's smile turned wistful. "Some, others I'm still searching for." They reached a modest apartment building, and Yates led them up to the third floor. "It's not much," he warned as he unlocked the door. The apartment was indeed small but meticulously clean. A living area with a second-hand couch and armchair, a tiny kitchen with mismatched dinnerware visible through glass-fronted cabinets, and a short hallway leading to what Amelia presumed were bedrooms. "Make yourself at home," Yates said, taking her coat and hanging it on a hook by the door alongside his own. "I'll get some sheets for the couch. Dad, can I show Miss Amelia my rocks now?" Lily asked, practically bouncing with excitement. "How about tomorrow morning, sweetie?" "It's getting late, and I'm sure Miss Kingsley is tired." "It's Amelia, please," she insisted. "And actually, I'd love to see your rock collection, Lily, if it's okay with your dad." Yates couldn't say no to the twin hopeful expressions before him. 10 minutes, then bedtime, he conceded. While Lily eagerly showed Amelia her prized collection of rocks and minerals, carefully labeled and arranged in a shoebox, Yates prepared the couch with sheets and a pillow. He couldn't help but overhear snippets of their conversation. "This one is a quartz crystal," Lily was explaining. "And this one is my favorite. It's called fool's gold, but its real name is pyrite." "That's impressive knowledge," Amelia responded. "Did you know I studied geology in college, really?" Lily's voice rose with excitement. "Dad, did you hear that? Miss Amelia knows about rocks too." "I heard," Yates called from the living room, smiling to himself. It had been a while since Lily had connected so quickly with an adult. Since her mother died, she'd become somewhat reserved around strangers. Later, after Lily had been tucked into bed, Yates returned to the living room to find Amelia standing by the window, looking out at the quiet street below. "Thank you again for your hospitality," she said without turning around. "Not many people would open their home to a stranger." Yates shrugged, though she couldn't see it. It seemed like the right thing to do. Now she did turn, studying him with those penetrating hazel eyes. "The right thing, that's refreshingly simple." "I try to keep things simple," he replied, moving to the kitchen. "Would you like some tea before turning in?" Amelia nodded, following him. "That would be nice." As Yates filled the kettle, Amelia took in the small kitchen. On the refrigerator were several of Lily's drawings held up by mismatched magnets. A calendar hung nearby, crammed with notations in a neat, masculine handwriting work shifts, Lily's school events, bill due dates. "You manage everything on your own?" she asked quietly. Yates set 2 mugs on the counter. "For the past 3 years, yes. My wife, Emma, died in a car accident when Lily was 5. I'm so sorry, thank you. It was difficult, still is sometimes, but Lily and we make it work. She's a wonderful child," Amelia said. "You're doing an amazing job with her." Something in her tone made Yates look up sharply. There was no pity there, just honest admiration. "What about you?" he asked, changing the subject as he poured hot water into the mugs. "Always traveling for business?" A flicker of hesitation crossed Amelia's face. "Often enough. My work requires it." "And what exactly do you do?" Yates handed her a mug of tea. "I'm in technology," she answered vaguely. "Software development." Yates raised an eyebrow but didn't press. Everyone had their reasons for keeping parts of themselves private. He respected that. They sat at the small kitchen table, talking quietly about neutral topics: the town, the unseasonably cold weather, Lily's interest in science. Amelia was an attentive listener, asking thoughtful questions about Yates's life without revealing much about her own. As the evening wore on, Yates found himself increasingly drawn to this mysterious woman. There was something about her, a depth, an intelligence that went beyond book smarts. She seemed to truly see him, not just as a struggling single father or a diner worker, but as a person of value. For her part, Amelia was experiencing something equally unfamiliar. In her world of corporate machinations and wealth, genuine interactions were rare. People always wanted something from Amelia Kingsley, CEO. But here, in this humble apartment with this honest man who had no idea who she really was, she felt a freedom she hadn't known in years. "I should let you get some rest," Yates said finally, noticing the time. "The bathroom's down the hall on the left. There's a new toothbrush in the medicine cabinet if you need it." "Thank you," Amelia said, rising from her chair. "For everything. It's no trouble. Good night, Amelia." "Good night, Yates." As Amelia settled onto the couch that night, wrapped in clean if slightly worn sheets, she found herself unable to sleep despite her exhaustion. The apartment was quiet except for the occasional creak of the old building settling. It was so different from her penthouse in New York or her beachfront property in California, yet somehow, it felt more like a home than either of those ever had. Morning came with the smell of coffee and the sound of childish giggles. Amelia opened her eyes to find Lily standing a few feet away, watching her with undisguised curiosity. "Dad says it's rude to stare," the little girl said, "but he also says breakfast is ready if you want some." Amelia couldn't help but laugh. "Thank you for the message, I'll be right there." In the kitchen, Yates was flipping pancakes at the stove, dressed in jeans and a faded blue Henley that complemented his dark blonde hair and blue eyes. He glanced over as she entered, offering a warm smile. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I expected," Amelia answered truthfully, running a hand through her hair. Without her usual styling products and tools, her dark waves had taken on a life of their own. "Though I'm afraid I'm not looking my best this morning." Yates's gaze lingered on her face for a moment longer than necessary. "You look fine to me." The simple comment, delivered without a hint of flirtation but with genuine appreciation, brought an unexpected warmth to Amelia's cheeks. When was the last time someone had looked at her, really looked at her, without seeing dollar signs or business opportunities? Breakfast was a lively affair, with Lily dominating the conversation, telling Amelia about her school and friends. Yates occasionally interjected with a gentle correction or a prompting question, revealing the easy rapport between father and daughter. "So what's the plan for today?" Yates asked as he cleared their plates. "I can drive you to your car before taking Lily to school." "That would be perfect," Amelia said, "and then I should probably find a way back to my hotel." "I can drop you there too," Yates offered. "I don't start my shift until noon today. You've already done so much, it's no trouble," he insisted. "Really?" The drive to Amelia's stranded car was filled with Lily's excited chatter about an upcoming field trip. When they arrived, Amelia called the towing service while Yates waited patiently. "They'll be here in 20 minutes, she reported after hanging up. "Great, we'll wait with you." At her protest, he added, "I wouldn't feel right leaving you alone by the roadside." His protectiveness touched something deep inside Amelia. In her position, she was always the one taking care of things, making decisions, shouldering responsibilities. Being on the receiving end of such consideration was a novel experience. The tow truck arrived promptly, and after arranging for her car to be taken to a nearby garage, they headed toward town. Lily was dropped off at school with hugs for both adults, extracting a promise from Amelia to come visit again sometime. Alone in the car with Yates, Amelia felt an unfamiliar nervousness. "Your daughter is incredible," she said, filling the silence. "She's the best thing in my life," Yates replied, his eyes on the road. "Everything I do is for her. It shows." Amelia hesitated, then asked, "What did you do before? I mean, before you worked at the diner?" A shadow passed over Yates's face. "I was a contractor, had my own small business. After Emma died, I couldn't juggle the unpredictable hours with taking care of Lily, so I had to close shop. The diner job is steady, and my evening security guard position at the community college lets me be home with Lily during the day. 2 jobs and single parenting," Amelia murmured. "That's a heavy load," Yates shrugged. "You do what you have to do." As they approached downtown, Amelia made a decision. "Would you mind stopping for coffee before dropping me off? My treat as a thank you." Yates checked his watch. "I have time." They found a small cafe, and as they sat across from each other at a corner table, Amelia felt an increasing reluctance to end their time together. There was something about Yates Zimmerman, his quiet strength, his evident integrity, his devotion to his daughter that drew her in a way she hadn't experienced in years. "So, big meeting today?" Yates asked, sipping his coffee. Amelia nodded. "A potential partnership that could be quite significant. Hence the fancy outfit yesterday," he noted. "Though you looked just as nice in yesterday's clothes with bedhead this morning." The compliment, delivered with such straightforward honesty, made Amelia smile. "You're good for my ego, Yates." "Just telling the truth as I see it." He set down his cup. "Will you be in town long? A few days, possibly a week?" Amelia hesitated, then added, "I'd like to see you again if that wouldn't be imposing." Yates looked surprised, then pleased. "I'd like that too. And I know Lily would be thrilled." They exchanged phone numbers, and Yates drove her to the Riverside Hotel. As they pulled up to the impressive entrance, Amelia could see him taking in the luxury establishment with slight discomfort. "Thank you again for everything," she said, turning to face him fully. "Your kindness meant a lot to me." Yates met her gaze, his blue eyes sincere. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Amelia said softly, "they wouldn't have. That's what makes it special." On impulse, she leaned over and pressed a kiss to his cheek before quickly exiting the car. As she walked toward the hotel entrance, she could feel his eyes following her. What Amelia didn't see was the valet's reaction to Yates's older model sedan, or how the doorman straightened to attention when he recognized her, despite her disheveled appearance. She didn't notice the whispers that followed her through the lobby, whispers about Amelia Kingsley, the reclusive tech billionaire, arriving in last night's clothes from a stranger's car. But someone else did notice. Leonard Phillips, her chief financial officer, was crossing the lobby when he spotted her. His eyes narrowed at her appearance and tracked back to the car now pulling away from the curb. "Amelia," he called, approaching with a concerned expression, "we've been trying to reach you all night." "Where have you been?" "My car broke down and my phone died," she explained simply. "I'm going to freshen up before the meeting." "But where did you stay? And who was that dropping you off?" Amelia fixed him with the cool stare that had cowed many a boardroom adversary. "I stayed with a friend, Leonard. Now, shall we focus on the Westridge proposal?" The meeting went well, but Amelia found her thoughts continually drifting to the small apartment across town and its occupants. That evening, after a day of negotiations and conference calls, she picked up her phone and sent Yates a text. "Thank you again for your hospitality. Would you and Lily be interested in dinner tomorrow night?" His response came quickly. "Lily hasn't stopped talking about you. We'd love to." "Nothing fancy though, please." Smiling to herself, Amelia replied, "How about I cook for you both at your place? I make a mean lasagna." When she arrived at Yates's apartment the next evening, grocery bags in hand, she was greeted by an exuberant Lily and a visibly nervous Yates. "You really don't have to cook for us," he said as he helped her with the bags. "I want to," Amelia insisted. "Besides, I rarely get to cook anymore. It's therapeutic." The evening was comfortable and joyful. Amelia took over the small kitchen, enlisting Lily as her helper, while Yates set the table and occasionally peeked at their progress. The domestic scene was so far removed from Amelia's usual life that she found herself savoring every moment. Over dinner, conversation flowed easily. Amelia shared sanitized stories of her travels, carefully omitting details that might reveal her true identity. Yates talked about growing up in the area, his dreams for Lily's future, and his hope to someday restart his contracting business. "What kind of contracting did you do?" Amelia asked. "Specialized in eco-friendly renovations," he explained. "There's a growing market for it, even in smaller communities like ours. I was starting to build a good reputation when—" His voice trailed off, and his eyes flickered to Lily, who was focused on her food. Amelia understood the unspoken reference to his wife's death. "That sounds like important work," she said. "The world needs more sustainable building practices." "That's what I thought too," Yates said with a small smile. "Maybe someday I'll get back to it." After dinner and dishes, Lily convinced Amelia to join her for a board game. The three of them sat on the living room floor, laughing and competing in a spirited game of Monopoly. Watching Yates with his daughter, his patience, his playfulness, his obvious devotion, Amelia felt something shift inside her. In her world, relationships were often transactional. People approached her for what she could give them: money, connections, opportunities. But Yates wanted nothing from her. He didn't even know what she could offer. His kindness came from a place of genuine human decency, and that was becoming increasingly precious to her. As the week progressed, Amelia found reasons to spend more time with Yates and Lily. She attended Lily's science fair, standing proudly beside Yates as the little girl explained her project on crystal formation. She joined them for a weekend picnic at the local park, where Yates taught her how to fly a kite properly, his hands warm and steady over hers as he showed her how to control the string. For his part, Yates was falling for this enigmatic woman who had walked into his life so unexpectedly. He admired her intelligence, her kindness toward Lily, and the way she seemed to truly listen when people spoke. There were aspects of her that remained mysterious. She was clearly educated and successful, yet chose to spend her free time with a struggling single father and his daughter. Sometimes he caught her looking at her surroundings with a strange mix of wonder and sadness, as though the simplicity of his life was both novel and appealing to her. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, they sat on the small balcony of his apartment, sharing a bottle of wine. "I have to go back to New York soon," Amelia said quietly, looking out at the night sky. Yates felt a pang of disappointment but nodded. "I figured you couldn't stay in Minnesota forever. When do you leave?" "3 days." She turned to face him, her expression serious. "Yates, there's something I need to tell you." He tensed, waiting for whatever revelation was coming. "Okay," Amelia took a deep breath. "I haven't been entirely honest about who I am." "I gathered that," he said with a small smile. "Most software developers I know don't stay at the Riverside Hotel or wear shoes that probably cost more than my monthly rent." She blinked, surprised by his perception. "You knew I was well off." "I didn't know how well off, but yes, it was pretty clear you weren't just any businesswoman." He shrugged. "I figured you had your reasons for keeping it quiet." "I did." She looked down at her hands. "When people know who I really am, they treat me differently. They want things from me, or they're intimidated, or they try to impress me. With you and Lily, I got to just be Amelia." "It was wonderful. And who are you when you're not just Amelia?" he asked quietly. She met his eyes steadily. "I'm Amelia Kingsley, CEO of Kingsley Innovations." Yates's eyes widened slightly. He might not follow the tech world closely, but even he had heard of Kingsley Innovations, one of the largest technology companies in the world. Wow. Are you angry that I didn't tell you?" He considered the question seriously before answering. "No, I understand why you wouldn't." "Does it change things?" "I'm not sure yet." His honesty was refreshing, even if his answer wasn't the immediate reassurance she'd hoped for. "I want you to know that everything else, how I feel about you and Lily, the time we've spent together, that was all real." Yates reached across the small table, taking her hand in his. "I believe you." They sat in silence for a moment, the implications of her revelation settling between them. "So what happens now?" Yates finally asked. "That depends," Amelia said, squeezing his hand. "I'd like to see where this could go. I know it's complicated, our lives are very different, we live in different cities, but I haven't felt this way in a very long time, maybe ever." Yates's heart beat faster at her words. "I feel the same way, but Amelia, I have to consider Lily in all of this. She's already getting attached to you, and if this is just a temporary thing—" "It's not," Amelia said firmly. "Not for me, and I adore Lily. I would never want to hurt her." "Then we take it one step at a time," Yates said. "See what's possible." The next 3 days were bittersweet. Amelia spent as much time as she could with Yates and Lily, knowing her departure was imminent. On her last evening, she took them to dinner not at the fanciest restaurant in town, but at a family-friendly place where Lily could be comfortable. As they walked back to Yates's apartment afterward, Lily skipping ahead of them, Amelia felt a deep ache at the thought of leaving. "I have a proposition for you," she said to Yates, who was walking beside her, his hand occasionally brushing against hers. "I'm listening." Kingsley Innovations is starting a new initiative focused on sustainable building technologies. We need someone who understands eco-friendly renovations to consult on the project. She watched his face carefully as she continued. "It would be a 6-month contract initially, based in New York with the possibility of extension or permanent position." Yates stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity," Amelia corrected. "One you're qualified for, that aligns with your interests and experience. The compensation would allow you to work one job instead of two, with hours compatible with being a single parent. And yes, it would mean you'd be in New York, where I am." Yates looked troubled. "Amelia, I can't accept a job just because we're whatever we are." "I'm not asking you to," she said firmly. "This is a legitimate position that needs filling, and you have the exact background we're looking for. If there was nothing between us personally, I'd still want you for this role based on what you've told me about your previous work." He still looked uncertain. "What about Lily? Moving her across the country, away from her school and friends?" "The position wouldn't start until summer," Amelia said. "She could finish the school year here, and New York has excellent schools, plus," she hesitated, "I own a building in Brooklyn with several apartments. There's a vacant 3-bedroom that would be perfect for you both." "You're thinking of everything," Yates said with a small smile. "I'm a CEO, it's what I do." She touched his arm gently. "Think about it, that's all I'm asking. No pressure, no expectations. If you decide it's not right for you and Lily, I'll understand completely, and we'll figure out another way forward." That night, after Lily was asleep, Yates and Amelia sat on his couch, talking late into the night. They discussed their feelings, their fears, and their hopes. Yates expressed his concern about entering Amelia's world of wealth and privilege. Amelia confessed her worries that her lifestyle and responsibilities might overwhelm him or change what she valued about him. "I'm not looking to be saved or supported," he told her firmly. "If I take this job, it's because it's the right professional move for me, not because I want access to your world. And I'm not looking for someone to impress me or agree with everything I say," she countered. "I want the Yates who told me my car's alternator was probably shot without knowing I could buy a fleet of cars without blinking. The Yates who treats everyone with the same respect, whether they're washing dishes or running companies." By the time dawn was breaking, they had reached an understanding. Yates would consider the job offer on its professional merits, consulting with trusted friends in the industry about whether it was a legitimate opportunity for someone with his background. Amelia would send him the formal offer letter and details so he could evaluate it properly. In the meantime, they would maintain their connection through calls, texts, and visits when possible. Amelia promised to return to Minnesota in 3 weeks for a weekend, and they would take things day by day. When it was time for her to leave for the airport, Lily clung to Amelia fiercely. "Promise you'll come back," the little girl demanded. "I promise," Amelia said, hugging her tightly. "And maybe you and your dad can visit me in New York sometime." "Really?" Lily's eyes lit up. "Dad, can we? We'll see," Yates said, though his eyes on Amelia conveyed more certainty than his words. The goodbye between Yates and Amelia was restrained because of Lily's presence, but the intensity in their gaze spoke volumes. A brief kiss, a lingering hug, and whispered promises to talk soon. As her private car pulled away from the curb, Amelia looked back at the pair standing on the sidewalk, the tall, strong figure of the man who had walked her home in the dark, without a thought for himself, and the small, bright-eyed child who had shown her what a real home could feel like. They were waving, and through the window, Amelia waved back, her heart both heavy with departure and light with possibility. 2 months later, Yates and Lily arrived in New York. After thorough research and many conversations with Amelia, Yates had accepted the consulting position, which was indeed perfectly suited to his experience and interests. The Brooklyn apartment was spacious and comfortable, with a room for Lily that Amelia had subtly prepared with shelves for her growing rock collection and a desk for her science projects. Lily adapted to the city with the resilience of childhood, quickly making friends at her new school and delighting in the museums and parks that Amelia introduced her to. Yates found his professional confidence returning as his expertise was valued and his ideas implemented. And Amelia, to her surprise, discovered that opening her life to them brought a balance and joy she hadn't known was missing. They took things slowly, building their relationship deliberately, always conscious of Lily's well-being. Amelia maintained professional boundaries at work, where Yates quickly earned respect on his own merits. In private, they grew closer, their different backgrounds enriching rather than dividing them. 1 year after that fateful night when Yates had walked a stranded stranger home, they stood together on the rooftop garden of Amelia's penthouse. Lily was having a sleepover with a new friend, and they had the evening to themselves. Do you ever regret it? Amelia asked, looking out at the city lights. Moving here, changing your life so dramatically, Yates turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. Not for a second. Do you regret stopping at that diner that night? It was the best car breakdown of my life, she said with a smile, leaning into him. Though I maintain I could have made it home alone. Maybe, he conceded, wrapping his arms around her, but I'm glad you let me walk you home that night. And I'm glad you had no idea who I was, she murmured against his chest. Would it have made a difference if I had? Amelia looked up at him, seeing the same integrity and kindness that had first drawn her to him. No, because you're the same man now that you were then. That's why I love you. Yates bent to kiss her, his embrace solid and secure. And I love you, Amelia Kingsley, not for your empire or your millions, but for the woman who sits on the floor playing board games with my daughter and still gets excited about finding a perfect quartz crystal at the Natural History Museum. As they stood together under the stars, Amelia knew that of all the success she'd achieved in her life, finding a man who valued honor and family above all else, and who had walked her home simply because it was the right thing to do, was perhaps her greatest fortune.